Hi, good morning all. Now I am going to talk about how can I read the newspaper in effective way for competitive examinations. Why should I read a newspaper? I am associated with a coaching institute. They are giving me many pages of materials. I am having access to monthly magazines related to competitive examinations. So isn't it sufficient to get the sufficient knowledge? No. In the newspaper reading is plays a major role in two ways. One is in case of main examinations and the interview of the selection process. The thing needed is your own views on the incidents happening, your perspective on the happenings, your analytical capacity of the things happening around you is being tested, and it is much needed for the mains and interview point of view. So for creating those ability, reading the newspaper will be very much helpful for, and you can understand the happenings around you in an effective way if you read a newspaper. In case of preliminary point examination point of view, many questions are being asked from the standard newspapers directly. So if you get those questions, and if you are having the habit of reading the newspaper regularly, then you can easily answer those questions, and much time will be saved in case of preliminary examinations. Even sometimes if the questions are not being directly asked, the reading newspaper habit will be very much helpful in neglecting the wrong answers in case of objective type questions. So reading newspaper is must. So okay, reading newspaper is must. Which newspaper? Many of the aspirants, the survey taken from the aspirants tells that the Hindu is the most wanted newspaper for the competitive examination aspirants. So the Hindu, sometimes the Indian Express and Hindustan Times is also preferred by some aspirants, but the maximum importance, maximum seller, maximum choice is the Hindu only. Why? It is having well analyzed editorials. The editorials of the Hindu will give you much more content for facing all the stages of your selection process. It focuses much on national issues and international issues rather than state issues and the local issues. As I have already told you, sometimes few direct questions are asked from Hindu. So if you read that, you can easily answer those questions also. At the beginning stage, it takes 3 to 4 hours to complete the newspaper from top to bottom. If you are not able to, if you are not known the way to read how the newspaper in the effective way. So the standard time taken for reading the newspaper may be 60 to 90 minutes. That is more than sufficient for completing a newspaper if you read it in the proper way, in the effective way. So how can I read it in the proper way? What are all the things needed when I start reading the newspaper? Yeah, obviously the newspaper, a pen, a notebook or a paper, syllabus of your preliminary and mains examinations, and your optional papers also, and a stopwatch. Okay, how to read it? One thing you have to avoid is you should not cut any articles and file it from the newspaper, because I have seen many aspirants, they'll cut all the important articles nearly within the 18 pages. They'll cut 4 or 5 pages from the newspaper and they'll file it daily. The files will be, the size of the files will be growing, but they'll not be able to find time to reread it. They'll not be able to refer the things which they are available in the file, and those things will get wasted. And also another one thing, that newspaper content, that current affairs content is needed for at least 1 year. So if you keep a newspaper for 365 days, then that will not be in that will be messed up, and that will not be in a good condition. So do as as maximum as possible avoid cutting articles. Only one thing, if you find it much important and take writing everything, the all the content in that new on that particular page or that particular article is needed. That is sometimes some overview of some important things will be given as tidbits as the point, as the bullet points. In that case, you can cut down those and you can file it. But after filing, you should not keep the file as such. You have to re-refer it and you have to transfer it to your mind from that particular newspaper as soon as possible. And the next thing, you make notes of the newspaper content, what and all you are reading, especially the editorials. But making notes should not be of sentences. You make notes with just the keywords. Sometimes if you think you are not that much strong in your vocabulary, then at that case you can note down few new English words also in your notes. Or else if you are satisfied, if you are confident with about your vocabulary, then don't worry about the new words, because you are going to write produce your answers in the very simple English only. So you just take the notes with the key points only. Maximum one page is sufficient. 1 to 2 pages sufficient to take the notes of a particular day. That too, only 1 page is recommendable. At some cases, if you are taking on, if it is having much content, and you can go for the, you can go beyond 1 page, because at least for 1 year you have to have the content of the current events. So 365 pages is more than sufficient, and to refer at the when you are approaching the examination. So 1 page for one newspaper, 1 day newspaper. What is the use of the stopwatch? Especially stopwatch is much useful in reading editorial page, because editorial page is full of content and sometimes it will be very difficult for us to understand. At that case, what we will be do is we will be going on reading it again, rereading. Like that, we will be going on reading, and the time will get elapsed lot, and you will not have completed even the editorial. So when you start reading the editorials, just you allot 15 to 20 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes, which you prefer. You set a time at that stopwatch and you read the editorial up to that particular time. Then take notes of that particular what or up to which you have studied. Then after that you stop. If the time gets completed, then you stop it and move on, and you move on to the next and next articles, next pages of the newspaper. And then at the end, you can again come to the editorial and you can complete the remaining things. So if you're going on practicing this, then within a month or two, you'll be able to complete the editorial within the prescribed time. So what are all the things to be focused in reading the newspaper? International issues, Supreme Court judgments, Parliament debates, surveys and reports. If there is any living examples, are there any people, any important people, like you can, for example, I can say Malala. Like that, if you find any ethical examples, concentrate on those contents, and also the editorial and the next page of editorial, that is op-ed. What all the things can be avoided? The political news and state news, which is a much interesting point of any newspaper. Then from the exam point of view, no need to read those things. Then the celebrity interviews, awards and sports news also is not needed for in case of UPSC examinations. So I'm considering the Hindu newspaper, and I'll tell you what are all the pages to be much concentrated and what are all the pages to be given less important. The first page will usually have the sensational newses. Then you can no need to read any of those newses that will not give any big knowledge related to your examination. At some but what you can do is just read the titles of the first page, and if you think anything is really important content, then you read the first paragraph of that article. That is sufficient. More beyond that, there will not be any important thing will be there in case of the first page. Then move on to the second, third, fourth and fifth pages. Those pages will be having the state and the local newses. So state and local newses are not that much important in case of Union Public Service Commission examinations. But if you are preparing for State Public Service Commission examinations, then state and local news is it plays a considerable amount of role. So in case of the state examinations, then you can go through the 3, 2, 3, 4 and 5 pages, the state pages also, or else you just ignore those pages, just give a glance and move on to the next page. Then on the next page, the sixth page will be editorial and the seventh page will be op-ed. Both the things are, both the pages are very, very, very much important in case of the all the stages of your preparation. So you have to read it, reread it, and you should have your own perspective on that particular editorial content. You will be able to produce that editorial content in your way, not in the way as they have been written in the newspaper. The content is to be taken, but you have to reproduce it in your own style and other things. Then the next three pages, 8, 9, and 10th pages, the political news. That is not that much important. You can just ignore or you can just give a glance. And the next page, the 11th page, will be the international newses. International newses are much important. But only thing is, if you find it very difficult to read and understand the international news, at that case, you can just give a glance and you can read a magazine content related to that international news, because the international newses will not have any frequent changes. So getting the updations for monthly once will be sufficient for inter- related to international newses. So in case if you find it much difficult, you can just go through the international news and you can get the knowledge, proper knowledge from a magazine, or else you give concentration to the international users also. Next page will be business page, that will talk about the fiscal policies and other things of the government, that is to be concentrated. So in that cases, at the near, you can concentrate. You can concentrate in the business page, or else you can you just give a look of that page. You'll be able to find out what all the things which are really need and what all the things can be avoided. So you go through you go through the page according to that. The next page will be sports and life. The sports section is not at all needed for preparing for UPSC examinations or even for the state competitive examinations. But for the life page is much important for related to your science, related to your anthropology, related to your biology and other things. So the life section of that particular page is to be concentrated more. Then Hindu is having many supplements. So in that case, Thursday science and technology supplement is being given with Hindu. So that is very valid, contentful, important material in case of competitive examination preparation. So science and technology supplement will give you a very good knowledge on this. So don't miss that. The next Friday, art and culture supplement is also very much important. It gives the overview about the country, overview about the state and other things. So it will be very much useful when you are writing the essay, when you are writing your ethics paper. It plays a major role. Then the Sunday it is having a supplement. The Sunday supplement will have lots and lots of motivations for your studies. So definitely Sunday supplement is also a important one in your preparations journey. So like that, if you prepare, if you concentrate in such pages, and if you ignore the remaining pages, then you will be able to complete the newspaper within 40 minutes itself. So within 40 minutes, you will get the best knowledge. So you read it, get best knowledge. All the best. Thank you.